Hello and welcome to Transplants Take on Sport. My name's Lewis Daniels and joining me today is liver transplant recipient and footballer Ben Hastings. Ben tells me about how his life suddenly changed when his liver failed, how he regained his fitness after transplant, and returning to 11-a-side Saturday League football again. He also talks about how important playing football with other transplant recipients has been mentally for him and his preparation for the European Transplant Games this summer. If you're enjoying the podcast, please make sure you press subscribe or follow wherever you normally listen so you don't miss an episode. And if you'd like to follow the podcast on social media, all the links will be in the show notes. Ben Hastings, welcome to Transplants Take on Sport.
Thanks for having me.
We were just talking beforehand, we've played football before together for the Nottingham Transplant Football Team, and you went along to trials for Team GB in Northern Ireland Transplant Football for the European Transplant Games this summer, and you're in, so congratulations.
Thank you.
We're going to talk more about football and sporting achievements later on, but where do you think that would rank in terms of your greatest sporting moments?
I would rank that very highly, if not top.
It's got to be up there. Representing your country at an international sporting event, you'll be an international footballer.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you'd have asked me, would I have achieved something like that 3 years ago when I was in hospital, I said absolutely no chance. So to be sitting here talking to you, telling you that I have, is it's a really good feeling.
It'd be a special moment. And you said there you were in hospital, you had a liver transplant, and not long after my kidney transplant, same month. So that's now almost 3 years ago. And I'm sure we'll come on to that more later in the podcast. But to start with, we'll stay on the football theme and we'll go right back to before your transplant. Is football something you've played since you've been very young?
Yeah, so football's always first love. With sports, I mean, I did grow up also having enjoyment in playing rugby, not watching it, just playing it. But always football was first love, and the only sport I was any half decent at. So,
what level did you play growing up, and then into adulthood?
After school, didn't play so much. I did quite a lot of five-a-side and seven-a-side at university. And then after university, coming back here, I did joined a Saturday team, 11-a-side, and been enjoying that much more recently.
What position have you played all the way through? Has that changed?
No, I've always been midfield, and of course, five-a-side, seven-a-side is, it's not really positional, it's just a lot of running. So, yeah.
We played together, as I said at the start, and you played midfield in five-a-side, but as you say, you're up and down.
Up and down, yeah. There's you don't really get much of a break 5-a-side, 7-a-side, whereas 11-a-side you can kind of hold your position when you're tired.
How close to your transplant were you able to play? Did you notice any sort of drop off in fitness levels the closer you got to that?
I played in a football tournament, end of season football tournament, 11-a-side, the day before I got ill, and 6 weeks after that is when I had my transplant. So.
Wow.
I wasn't the fittest beforehand, but as I say, I was looking back at it now, I was actually playing that tournament as my illness started. So I would have been ill playing in that end of season tournament. So
looking back, do you think that your fitness levels, I know you said yourself, they maybe weren't that great, but playing sport regularly, do you think that helped in maybe recovery afterwards from your transplant?
Oh, 100%. I think, obviously, playing back then, I don't think you really notice how unfit you are. You just play, you get through it. Whereas post-transplant, being off your feet for so while, you definitely notice and have a feel for where your fitness is post-transplant playing football.
A lot of people have said that, and it shows how powerful and how important sport and exercise can be in recovery from any surgery, really, not just transplant surgery. There'll be people listening to this who've had other surgeries done, and yeah, it's big.
I'd agree. The reason why my recovery has gone so well, touch wood, I think a massive part of that has been getting back playing sports, getting active.
Let's move on to your liver transplant and your illness. When did you find out that there was something wrong with your liver?
So I got ill and it snowballed from there. So from the date that I got ill to the point of needing a liver transplant was 6 to 8 weeks. And I probably didn't really understand that I needed a liver transplant till 2 weeks before I actually had it done.
It's a lot. I know we're going to go on to it more. We've spoken beforehand. It's a lot that you went through in a short space of time. Do you know what actually caused your liver to fail?
No, so my diagnosis actually means negative for everything they know about medically that could cause liver failure, but my liver was failing and very rapidly. It was a very aggressive. They put it down to like an infection, an aggressive infection that just, within about 6 weeks killed my liver.
I knew what caused my kidney to fail, but I don't know if it'd be. I always sometimes feel not guilt, but what could I have done to stop this illness? And I know that the answer is nothing because it would have happened anyway.
Yeah.
But not knowing a cause, how do you take that emotionally, especially at the time?
So at the time when I got discharged out of hospital, there was quite a lot of struggling mentally with the whole thing of what happened, and a lot of why me, and a bit of anger, being honest, with not knowing why or how, or nothing I'd done wrong, sort of state of mind post-op, definitely for a good month or so afterwards. It is. Yeah, it's tough. I'm not sure if now they could tell me. I'd want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy with the way things have gone, and everything happens for a reason for me. So I'm happy with the way, knowing that we don't know what caused it.
Yeah, you're past that stage now, and you're moving on with
Yeah,
your new liver. Now, you said on the sheet that I sent you to help plan for this that at one point you were the fifth most ill person in the UK at your worst.
yeah,
I was just spoken about mindset there. Did being told that affect your mindset in any way? It's like a reality check.
yeah. So of course, I knew and I could feel how ill I was in hospital, especially when I ended up in intensive care and I was bedbound. I could feel how fragile and ill I was, and I knew I was struggling. But when the doctors say to you, I got told I only had 2 weeks left to live when I was in intensive care. And I knew that when I was put on the list, that there was only 4 people in the entire UK that were above me on the list as a priority. That was when it really hit home of how serious it was.
It's a lot to take for someone. You were 25 at the time, weren't you? It's a lot to take to say you've got 2 weeks left.
It was. It was. Um, Anyone going through liver failure will know that when your liver fails, all the toxins go to your brain and you're in a constant state of confusion. So there was only like certain moments throughout the day where I sort of could think straight. And especially I could feel my body getting weaker. And when I heard those words, it was like a big bombshell realization that I'm in a lot of trouble here.
Obviously, very urgent for you to find a liver donor. How
Yeah.
long did you have to wait from being told you needed a new liver to actually having the transplant?
Hours. So I know I was put on a list at 5 o'clock on a Friday, and I was having my transplant at 6 a.m. on a Saturday.
That's the quickest I've ever heard for any transplant, and I've got a feeling it'll take some beating.
Yeah, it was very quick. I can remember the evening. We know got put on the list. Parents went home, and at about 11 o'clock at night, nurse come bursting through the curtains and was like, "Tell your parents I need to meet you up in intensive care at like 5 in the morning because you're having it at 6." So yeah, it was great. It was crazy to happen so soon. I don't think anyone was expecting it to happen so soon. I knew how ill I was, but the sort of impression you got from the doctors was it could be days, weeks, months. They couldn't say anything for certain, but I wasn't expecting hours.
There's no real time to prepare, is there really, either? Because it's so quick.
No time to prepare, and of course, we were still in the dark about everything. We didn't know what had caused it. We just knew how bad it was, and how urgent I was, and how struggling. And it was just a kind of everything was up in the air at the time, and everything just happened so quick. It just went from me being fit and healthy to me being told I'm having it at 6 o'clock in the morning was in a space of 6 to 8 weeks. So as you can see, that's quite a quick timeline to try and digest everything that was happening.
You said to me as well, with that one quick time from one thing to the other, and you were on course for one of the fastest liver transplants there's ever been, like in surgery. But you've got I think, a really cool story about why your surgery took longer than it could have done.
Yeah, so a liver transplant can take anything from up to like 10 hours, even longer. Massive surgery. Well, because I was so poorly, my actual transplant only took 2.5 hours. But it took 4.5 hours because I have a massive tattoo across my stomach, and they spend just as much time doing my transplant as they did matching up my stomach tattoo to finish off the surgery. So yeah, they spent about roughly 2 hours matching it all up at the end, which I'm forever grateful for.
It's a nice touch. So you know that they obviously they care because they're saving your life, but really care about how you might feel afterwards and making you as comfortable as possible with such a big scar.
Yeah, 100%. You could tell. I mean, the staff, the surgeons were all really great throughout, and that was like an added step. And it was never spoke about. It was never thought about. It wasn't like I said to them before. When you go through the surgery, can you do your best with this? Never spoke about. It was completely off their own back, and yeah, just a sign of how caring and considerate they were. And it was massive. Like when I first got to see my scar afterwards, I couldn't have been more happier with the outcome. So yeah.
Was it ever on your mind that it might not end up straight again? I'm sure, although just all you want to do is get the transplant, I'm sure the sort of aesthetic things weren't that high on your mind. But
Yeah, to be honest, with how fast paced everything was, it never come into my mind the fact that they were going to be cutting through the tattoo. It was just, yeah, I was really ill, and I was just fingers crossed that it was all going to go
yeah,
well. I was thinking about nothing else than just getting through it, and it wasn't until afterwards, when you take your bandages off a bit later on, and you're looking at it, and it's like, do you know what? Is absolutely smashed it.
yeah. Well, you showed us at the last football event, and it's they've definitely pieced it together.
Yeah, like 2 hours matching it up together when they could have at that point just closed it up and been done with it, because let's face it, they've just done a liver transplant. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? They've just done a massive complex operation, and they could have closed it off that and been done and been happy with the work, and I would have said nothing because I'd have been, alive
exactly.
and
Yeah.
happy. Do you know what I mean? But they went above and beyond and spent another 2 hours matching it up, which, yeah, I'll be forever grateful for that.
It's a great story. Did everything go smoothly with the transplant?
So yeah, I had a few complications post-op, but in terms of the surgery, other than struggling with the ventilator, it all went well.
Is a ventilator a common thing for liver transplants, as far as you're aware?
Yeah, so everyone that goes under and has a liver operation will put on a ventilator. I was put on a ventilator, and yeah, I struggled post-op to come off the ventilator just to breathe by myself. It took about 4 or 5 attempts to get me to breathe by myself post-op. But yeah, and then I had a couple more complications afterwards, but kept me in hospital for another 2 to 3 weeks afterwards. But after that point, it's all been good. Yeah.
Coming to me now, is everyone on a ventilator in surgery? I had a tube down my throat, but again, I didn't really ask what it was. It was just I
I
didn't know
think
it was
if
there.
you're put to sleep having your transplant, which I imagine everybody is put to sleep
Yeah,
and have the transplant, then 100% I imagine people are on a ventilator, especially because you get put under, don't you? You go under anaesthetic, and then they want to, monitor your breathing and stuff. I know 100% I was on a ventilator, and do you know what? I would be surprised if anyone else from a liver background wasn't on a ventilator going through something surgery like that.
I might be confusing it with a tracheostomy where it's going through your neck rather than the one down your throat.
Down your throat. Obviously, with this being a podcast, can't show you, but there is a photo of me with the ventilator still there, and yeah, it's down your throat.
I think I did have it then. Uh, now
Yeah,
you've
I
said
mean,
that.
it's just something I've assumed. I could be wrong, but I would I'd be pretty confident in saying most people that would be on a ventilator having that sort of surgery.
I'll Google it after this and see.
Yeah.
Now, we said before that your obviously sport was a big was a part of your life beforehand. It's been a big part since then, especially with other transplant patients. Was that a motivation for you in recovering from your transplant and getting back to fitness again?
Yeah, so it's like for me, the first thing I wanted to do post op was get back in the gym. I was very into gym, that sort of lifestyle, weights and all that sort of stuff, and then of course football. But for me, first and foremost was football was always the last thing I could have got into.
Yeah.
It was a gym first, so it was all focused for the gym, and then I got back into the football, and yeah, just the both. Um, I can remember the day that I first went back onto a training pitch and first went back onto a football pitch post op, and yeah, that feeling is it's a difficult feeling to describe, but such a great feeling to be back out and be back doing those sort of things post op.
And you're still going to the gym now regularly, aren't you? To okay, is that just fitness, or are you looking to do maybe like powerlifting that I know a few other people have done? I've had a powerlifter on the podcast as well. I think Megan did it.
Yeah, so I mix it up. I do like the lifting the weight side of it. I mean, post op, I think 6 months, I managed to bench 100k, which I'd never done pre op. And yeah, I was very into that side of things. But since I've started doing a lot of football, it's that side has taken over. So fitness, I'll go in and to the gym to do weights and stuff to break it up when I need a rest from running. But quite a lot of my active side now, when I'm not playing football, will be running and stuff like that.
How long after your transplant did it take before you were playing football again? Now that being the last step.
Oh, so I think about 4 to 5 months I was back in the gym, and I was probably back in the gym 4 to 5 to 6 days a week.
It's a pretty quick time
It was,
compared to what
yeah,
I was told for a kidney.
yeah, it was really quick, and the surgeons were actually a bit worried about me getting a hernia. Um,
Yeah,
but it was just something mentally I needed. Um, it was helped me leaps and bounds, being in the gym and trying to get, build my strength up back again, to a level where I was confident with my own body again. And I think going to the gym and spending all that time made me a lot more comfortable on the football pitch as well.
that was something I was going to ask you next. To think about confidence is a massive in sport at any level and any ability. Never mind whether you've had major surgery or not, or you've had a transplant or not. How did football compare after transplant to before transplant, and were there any sort of mental barriers to playing again?
Yeah, so I'm a very determined person, and if someone says to me you can't do something, I'm gonna do it. It's drive me on, and there was quite a lot of doubts. You know, parents wanted me to be more careful, like, oh, do you need to go back into football? Do you know what I mean? You've just been through this, They wanted me to go there because I know it was such a big thing, but there was also obviously being a parent that were worried about that side of things. But yeah, as soon as I was confident with myself in the gym, I knew I'd be confident, that I could take the physical aspect of football. So yeah, I was confident going back to playing football.
You've gone back to playing Saturday League again, which is 11 aside. Saturday's generally higher standard than Sunday League.
Yeah.
Have you had to adapt your game in any way to play that, given your liver transplant and
Um,
the fact of where it is?
I sort of tried to play as I would do without, and that's incredibly hard because I'm hardwired to protect my core.
Yeah,
Whereas I never was before. He never thought about it. Whereas now, say if a shot's coming straight towards me, turning to my left, protecting my right side. But yeah, it's I try to play as freely as possible. I enjoy the physicality of football. But yeah, I'd be lying if I said subconsciously on the pitch I'm not always thinking about um, your core, and and if you take a hit there, there's always a couple of seconds where your mind runs away with it. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it, and more confident. And it's I'm quite happy with it now.
I don't want to assume, but I would guess that the majority of transplant patients do subconsciously think about what might happen if they got some sort of direct contact in that area when they're playing sport. And it's something that I still do, but did more so
Mhm.
when I first got back to playing cricket again. And I think we'll all have our evasive actions. Like I maybe go a bit unorthodox if there's a bouncing ball, and I'll go on one leg and pull one leg behind me to get my right side out the way.
Yeah,
And I've heard other people say that, again, cricket as an example, again, purely because it's my sport, rather get a hit on the back and just take that than get
like that.
hit where your kidney is. I know I have a pad over it anyway, but that's only there for confidence. I wouldn't want to get hit in that position. But yeah, I think you naturally find ways to move out the way if necessary, or adapt slightly. We're not massive adaptations, but you're just like spinning around on the pitch to avoid things. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's the unexpected impact for me. So if I'm slide tackling someone, I'm confident with going on that side, left side, because I know that that's what's going to be happening. It's the if I get tackled and I fall awkwardly and I'm not
yeah,
ready for it and I'm going to fall on that side, I'll take any measures I can to, protect that side. Definitely.
yeah. Yeah, that's I think, yeah, again, that's something that naturally happens, like diving for a cricket ball to catch or stop. If I'm going to the right, which is the side my kidney's on, I will try to twist in the air and land on my back.
Yeah, yeah. I could see that because. Um, I used to do a little bit in goal, like five-a-side, seven-a-side, and obviously before could throw myself left side, right side, not a problem. Now I'll throw myself left side, but right side I'm apprehensive, so your reactions aren't quite as you're not
Yeah,
ready to throw yourself right hand side, and it's more of a much of a structured fall rather than save the ball, worry about the fall afterwards. So yeah, there is that, and just it comes with confidence because there's no reason as to why you can't. It's just it's just being protective, isn't it?
and you're part of the Nottingham Transplant Football team as well. How important has that been mentally and socially, as well as physically, to be playing football with other transplant patients?
Oh, massive. When I come out of hospital and I was looking to do this sort of thing, um, the hospital that I'm at currently, there isn't a team. And of course, I heard about Nottingham and was invited to play down there, and it has been massive playing with other people that have had transplants, all different types of transplants as well, and knowing that we're all in the same boat when we're out there on the football pitch. So that sort of brotherhood, shall we say? Do you know what I mean? We've all out there, we've all had this sort of surgery. We can all talk about that side of things, and it's just it's really good being around other people and socialising with other people that can understand the mental side of what it's like to play football post op.
Definitely. I think from experience as well, you have conversations with people who've been through similar experiences, transplants, that you maybe wouldn't have with other people.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I have sometimes quite a few conversations with lads looking to get into the transplant football from a hospital that haven't got into it like that, and obviously I can, from my experiences, talk them through it. And also, I'm meeting people through through Nottingham team like Simon, who's been there and done it, gone to World Games, gone to stuff that gives you something to look forward for.
Mm,
Aim for, and it's been massive. And of course, everyone that you meet through there is a friend for life. You can message and speak to them at any point,
yeah.
and it's been really big.
We touched on it at the start. You'll be going to an international competition to represent Team GB in football at the European Transplant Games in Oxford this summer.
Yeah.
How are you feeling ahead of that?
Oh, over the moon. Yeah, like I said before, I just if someone had said this to me when I was in hospital, I'd have been like, no chance, no chance. But for it to be a reality and it to be in August, just gives me another thing to work to. I like having goals to work to, and that being in August, get fit, get ready, is another one. And like I say, the pride side of it is going to be massive, and it is massive, and I can't wait.
And hopefully, you'll be trying out for the England Transplant Football Club as well, aren't you?
Yes. I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait for that either. Sounds like a great. Even if you don't make the team, just the day itself sounds amazing. And yeah, I'm hopeful to try and get involved in that, because also that sounds absolutely amazing opportunity. So yeah, fingers crossed.
By the time, when you're hearing this, you'll have already been. Those trials will have happened. So fingers crossed you're in there as well.
Yes, hopefully. But yeah, I'll go into with these sorts of things. My mentality is I give it my best. If I walk away driving home and I know I've gave my best, the outcome, whether I do or don't, isn't so much of a big thing. It's if I come away not knowing I've done my best, could have give more, then that's when I'll be upset at myself. But yeah, if I go to these things, give my best and see what comes out of it. If I get into, great. I mean, that's what I'm really hoping for. But yeah, just to go there and play with other transplantees and have fun and see what happens of it. But yeah, it's looks like an amazing opportunity on paper, and can't wait to go there.
Definitely. And with Oxford coming up this summer, are you stepping up the amount of football you're playing anymore, training more to get ready for that?
So yeah, I'm looking at ramping it up all the way up through to August. I mean, unfortunately, the football season's ending, but hopefully that means I can step up the 5-a-side, 7-a-side. Now I should have more time after the 11-a-side season's ended, and just really work on my fitness. So I do quite a lot of 5Ks on the side, and just trying to get that football fitness, which is quite hard to get. But yeah, you definitely get it from 5-a-side, 7-a-side. So hopefully that will ramp up till August now.
And you've had previous success in Oxford before, haven't you, with Nottingham?
Yes, that was the first ever sort of transplant tournament I'd been to down in Oxford. I wasn't really knowing what to expect. Obviously, I'd played with the Nottingham team, but never played against another transplant team. And yeah, it was really good. There was a lot of good quality on show. Lots of very competitive and lots of fun. And yeah, we won it in the end. So even that was great as well.
And speaking of competitive and hopefully fun, it's your turn to take on the Transplants Take on Sport quiz, which everyone does at the end of the or towards the end of the podcast, should I say. So to remind people of how this works, each week I will ask the guest 4 questions based on a sport of their choosing, which in your case is, if people haven't guessed already, football.
Yeah.
1 which is higher question, 1 true or false, 1 what happens next, and 1 who am I? And the aim is to score as many points as possible. And I'll be keeping score as the podcasts go by. There've been a few 4s so far, 4 out of 4.
Okay,
And a few,
no pressure.
few 3s. I think there's been a 2 in there as well. So a range. You'll be
That's good.
You'll be in there somewhere. So, first question, which is higher? Normally this question is a bit more of a stupid option than this one, but we're going to go with it anyway. So, which is higher? The number of club hat-tricks scored by Cristiano Ronaldo, or the total number of official titles won by the most decorated player of all time, Dani Alves?
Ooh. It's got to be close, but I'm going with Cristiano Ronaldo's hat-tricks.
Correct. He has scored 50 club hat-tricks, 60 total hat-tricks, 50 for club, 10 international ones. And Dani Alves, the most decorated player of all time, has won 42 trophies.
Ooh, yeah, close, but yeah, what an achievement for both, eh? 50 hat-tricks.
It's a lot.
There's a machine.
1 out of 1 so far. Question 2, true or false? Here's your statement. Liverpool midfielder James Milner only speaks to his children in Spanish.
It's got to be false, that. I'm going to go false.
It's true.
It's true, okay.
It's true, and it's come from, that has been verified by him in an interview.
Okay,
It's an interesting choice, I've got to say.
yeah.
He said, if I set my mind to something, I do it. I'm stubborn. Since my 2 children were born, I've just spoken to them in Spanish, and his wife speaks to them in English.
I mean, yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? But fair play. They grew up learning two languages, but yeah, not one I would ever have put money on.
I don't know how old his kids are, but they must. Do they think he's Spanish? Maybe he really is James Milner.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, just the sort of persona you get from James Milner. I never thought he would be teaching Spanish to his kids. So that's that's an interesting one.
1 out of 2 so far. I think that's one of the best true or falses that there's been so far.
Okay, you got me.
Question 3: what happens next? And people may be wondering, if this is the first time listening, how are you going to do what happens next on an audio-only podcast? I will do my best to describe the scene, and then you'll get 3 multiple choice options to decide which was the outcome. Previously, the what happens next clips have gone on to social media, and now I'll try and do that if I remember, and if I can get the footage for copyright. But also from now on, I'll start linking it in the show notes of the podcast. So if people want to go and watch it straight away, and maybe don't want to see a spoiler on social media, that might be the way to do it. So there'll be a link in the show notes of this podcast with a link to the clip. So what happens next? In the 8th minute of a League Two match between Darlington and Bury in 2006, the ball was played over the Bury defence towards the back post, where their defender Chris Brass tries to clear the ball. But what happens next? Is it A, he attempts an overhead clearance but fails, cannoning the ball off his face and past his goalkeeper Kasper Schmeichel, making it 1-0 to Darlington? Is it B, he slips when trying to clear the ball and unintentionally kicks it towards his own goal, wrong-footing Kasper Schmeichel and making it 1-0 to Darlington? Or is it C, he completely misses an overhead clearance, falling flat on his back, allowing Darlington striker Andy Cook to score and make it 1-0?
Oh, okay. So it's the first option. He kicks it off himself.
It kicks it into his own face and scores an own goal.
I am going to go with that one. There is just something telling me I've seen a clip somewhere of a defender trying to clear it straight off his own face and in the back of the net. So that's going to be my answer.
You've seen the clip before. It is A.
Yes.
Chris Brass did kick the ball into his own face and score an own goal. He also broke his nose in the process. And it's become a clip that Soccer AM and all those football's funniest moments programs love to show over and over again.
How embarrassing if that was caught on camera and that was you. You'd never live it down, would you?
I doubt he has. I imagine every time he goes out with his friends, someone brings that clip up.
Yeah, highly embarrassing and unfortunate for the lad. It's caught on camera and it's like you say, now used on all the sports shows, and he's going to never live that down.
If you want to go and watch that clip, you can have a look at the link in the show notes of this podcast and have a laugh at somebody kicking the ball in their own face, which is, I'm not sure why. Face and nether regions, always funny.
As a defender, I imagine that's got to be up there with the biggest nightmare that you could possibly think that you could have in a game is kicking it off your own face and in the net. I doubt there's much worse. Maybe getting megged and falling over, a bit like Boateng, but I would go with kicking it off my own face and scoring an own goal would be more embarrassing.
Not ideal. And you've got 2 out of 3 so far, taking you to the last question, which is a who am I? So how this works is I'll read out 4 statements about a footballer, and at the end of those 4 statements, you can have a guess. If you're correct, great, 3 out of 4. If not, I'll then read out 3 extra statements, and you can have a guess after each one. So you've got 4 guesses in total to get this.
Okay.
So, who am I? I was born in February 1981. So currently would be 41 years old, sorry. I started my career at Aston Villa. I have won the Premier League and the FA Cup. And I finished my career at your beloved West Brom in 2020 after also playing for Manchester City and Everton. Who do you think that might be?
It's got to be Gareth Barry, hasn't it?
It is Gareth Barry.
There we go.
3 out of 4. He also has won 53 caps for England, scored 3 goals. That came over 12 years. And he holds the record for the most appearances in the Premier League with 653.
Yeah, I think it's a sort of an underrated thing, isn't it? A longevity of a career and lasting as long as he had. A decent level as well, like retiring in the Championship. That's still, really, really high level. So, what a player. And like I say, that longevity of the career, not very many are going to reach that height, are they?
It's a record that they're going to... I think that Premier League appearances record will struggle to be beaten.
Yeah, 100%. Like I say, there's only you could probably name what 5 players that have got anywhere near that sort of longevity. Whereas you could name many players that have been at the top of the game in the Premier League. But in terms of longevity, you're looking at your Mark Nobles, you're looking at your Giggs, you're looking at your Barrys. Do you know what I mean? And the list is not long. So yeah, it's underrated.
Definitely. He will always be remembered in the Premier League for that record.
Yeah, I mean, more as a Albion fan, I think he will be known for us as the whole taxi gate when he was with us. When a few of them got drunk on a pre-season, and rumours were that they stole a taxi on the way back drunk. Spanish authorities got involved, and ever since that, he had his own little chant about stealing a taxi. I think. Yeah, that would be my biggest memory of Gareth Barry at the Albion.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, it was. Do you know what? It was the most out of blue thing because at the time we were known as quite a boring team. You know, Route 1 football. You wouldn't have expected any Albion player to come out and end up in the papers for getting drunk and robbing a taxi. And I think it was the likes of, who did we have at the time? I think we had Fletcher. I think he might have been involved, Darren Fletcher, Gareth Barry, and players that you just don't think would be involved in anything like that. But yeah, made for a great chance.
Another one for people to YouTube. I haven't heard it, but I'm not sure if we can say it on a podcast.
There's a bit of swearing in it. I'm not going to repeat it, but quite a catchy tune. And Soccer AM, I think, ranked it the best football chant of that season. So it's one to listen to, but yeah, not one I can repeat.
I know what I'm doing after this.
Maybe. I'll give it a go.
One more question before we go, and it's been great to have you on and to share your experiences of football and liver transplant, and the speed at which you went through your liver transplant is unbelievable and shows how strong you've had to be to get through it. One more question before we go, and it's the one I ask everyone at the end of the podcast. What's one piece of advice you would give to someone facing a transplant?
It would be 100% give yourself time. It is massive, giving yourself that time. And as hard it is, set yourself goals, because back then I had no goals because I didn't think I would get to be achieving the sort of stuff that I am now. But for advice for someone going through it, you can and you will. You give yourself the time, and the structures out there, no matter what sport, or if you just want to get involved socially. If you want to go out there and play football, you want to go do your cricket, you want to go do archery and all the wonderful sports that you can do post-transplant, is set their goals, say that you're going to go to the games, and yeah, it's helps you to drive on post-op and get there, definitely.
Well said. And if anyone would like to get involved with sport with other transplant patients, I'm sure if you ask somebody at your hospital, whether that be a consultant or somebody else around there, or somebody you know at that hospital, they'll be able to direct you to the hospital's transplant sport team that competes in the Transplant Games, or search it up online. There's a Transplant for Sport Facebook group. Someone in there will be able to answer your question and direct you to where you need to be. Ben, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure to chat to you.
Thanks for having me.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please make sure you subscribe, follow wherever you normally listen, whichever app that may be. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, they are the two most used apps to listen to the podcast on. And it will mean a massive amount to me if you go on there and rate the podcast 5 stars on the show page. If you don't think it's 5 stars, fair enough, entitled to your opinion. I'd rather you told me if you thought it was 1 star rather than going on and slamming it on there. I can make any changes that you'd like me to do, and hopefully make you enjoy this podcast more and keep coming back in the future to listen. Also, if you leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, they will be read out in this section of the podcast. Also, if you'd like to go and check out my other podcast that I present with Stephen Harrison, who was the first guest on this podcast in association with the England Transplant Football Association, please go and check out the Natter podcast on all major podcast platforms, and hope you enjoy that. That's more of a football-based one. Thank you once again to my guest today, Ben Hastings. I've been Lewis Daniels, and you've been listening to Transplants Take on Sport.